April 5, 2022. This is when Lumen was firstly introduced in Unreal Engine 5. And since then, a lot of videos talk about the requirements to have Lumen works well. And mostly they've mentioned the light values, the base color values for materials, and the indirect light intensity. But if you think that these three options are the only options that control Lumen, so you are completely wrong. And that's because Lumen has different types, different approaches, and that depends on the project type, the target hardware, and the specs and quality you want to get. So in this video, I will show you how I use Lumen in the AAA projects I work on. First of all, we need to go in project settings, then rendering, and we can scroll down here and we can see support hardware ray tracing. This is related to the project overall to support hardware ray tracing or not. So it's not only related to Lumen, but if you want to use hardware ray tracing for Lumen, you can use it. And we have mainly two things, like as you can see here, the hardware ray tracing, and the other one, which is the cheaper option and works on wider range of hardware specs, which is the software ray tracing. So in order to use software ray tracing, we can turn off the support hardware ray tracing, or we can keep it for other purposes and just keep this one disabled. So this is the use hardware ray tracing when available. This triggers Lumen to use ray tracing support when the specs or the hardware can do it. Otherwise, you will fall back to software ray tracing. So what actually the types of software ray tracing are? We have two things. They are here in software ray tracing category. You have first to use the generate mesh distance fields that could be added for each static mesh you import into your project. And then you can control that mode for it from software ray tracing mode. We have detail tracing and global tracing. Simply, detail tracing uses the mesh distance fields, which is more accurate and works with each mesh individually. And the global tracing uses the global distance field, which is less in resolution and it's not as accurate as the detail tracing. So what we can see here, we can go to show flag options, visualize mesh distance fields, and we can see here, this is really low resolution. If we try to select and open this static mesh editor, let's go to build options. And as you can see, this asset has really thin geometry in here. Notice what will happen if we try to go here and increase the distance field resolution scale. Let's try 20, for example, and that will increase the memory for sure and maybe increase the disk size. But this is super accurate now. It respects this thin geometry and reads the details in much better way. So if you have really thin geometry like wall ceilings, you can fix it with this option, or you can rescale it and increase the thickness of the static mesh itself. But if you cannot do that, you can do that here in the static mesh editor. So that's for the mesh distance field. The other way to use software ray tracing is to use the global distance field. As you can see, this is really low resolution. So it's not representing the exact same details that we want. So this saves more memory and it makes the projects run faster, but it lacks the details, especially within really small distances or really focused areas. But it works really well with really large world scale environments. So you can switch between them based on your project preferences. And personally, I prefer to use the mesh distance fields if I'm going to use software ray tracing. And we have also the other way, which is using hardware ray tracing. So here we can use hardware ray tracing when available, and that will enable and give us the option to use it with the recommended or the required hardware specs. And the default here is to use Surface Cache. So Surface Cache is the cheapest way to use Lumen for hardware ray tracing. And we still have other ways which are higher in resolution. And also it gives better details, but that will take or consume more from the performance. So we have hit lighting for reflections. This is more accurate for reflection surfaces. So here, if we try to go in there, as we can see the reflections on the water surface, we can scroll here for post-process volume. And I believe I was using HUD lighting. So if I try to switch to surface cache, as you can see, the reflections are not really good. You still see some black reflections here. They are not too accurate. And especially if you are using really high quality reflections, this will not work for you. So you might need to use HUD lighting for reflections or HUD lighting. But they have some differences because HUD lighting is way more expensive than HIT lighting for reflections because it projects more rays into the indirect lighting path. So it gives you much more accurate results, but it's not reliable for games. So what I personally use is to work with surface cache, and sometimes I don't even want to use hardware ray tracing. But I have to ensure that I keep my meshes working perfectly. I have the proper distance field for the meshes, and they have the proper thickness, and they have proper materials and everything like that. And also there are other things that depend or have some work to do with Lumen. And if you want to recreate this scene, I have a step by step, a full breakdown that I'm going to do for this scene specifically. So we can get this kind of result here, as we can see for a golden hour, how you can set up the lighting, the values that we have in here, and the sky values, the proper exposure, and everything that works fine for the environment. So you can get this kind of balance in here. I will have it live in a workshop that is going to be happening really soon. So if you want to get your hands on this scene and start to know how to use Lumen in more details and understand the differences in more practices and how I can actually use it, and unlock all these features and settings that I use in my projects and relight this scene, you can register in the workshop link I will add in the description below. It's going to be completely for free, and you can get all the details and behind the scenes for this environment lighting step by step, from setting up the sky, setting up the directional light, setting up the exposure and balance to recreate this beautiful golden hour lighting. Also to understand more about Lumen from practical approach in the industry and connect with others while they are asking more questions about Lumen and the lighting in there. So make sure to register to attend and get your seat to join us in this free workshop to start relighting your projects in a proper way as I do in AAA projects. Thank you so much for watching and see you there in the workshop.